It's time for your daily dose of all things Chicago sports. This is the Daily Score. Now, here's your host, Mark Grote.
And what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Daily Score. I am Mark Grote, and there is a growing trend that exists between sports leagues, between teams, and the media. I would say against the media, teams, management positions, and that is to have press conferences and do things under their own circumstances. And what has stimulated this right off the bat is that as we are recording this, Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the National Football League, is taking questions from invite-only media. This is about as weak of a thing as I think I have ever heard from Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the National Football League. He's in a position where he's making, $30-40 million a year, one of the great jobs in America to be the boss of the National Football League. And this weak sauce commissioner is making this invite only, his selected soft media guys that will ask that he is not afraid to answer questions from. It's really shameful for a league that giant, for a person that powerful, to abuse his powers and hand select media. So this is a growing issue, or maybe it's not even a growing issue. It's one that pops up that pisses me off a lot, and it should piss you off too if you are a consumer, because you know you're not getting the full truth. That is against one of the basic principles that our country is built on, and that is freedom of the press. That is about as anti-freedom of the press as it gets. There's other small examples. They're not even small. How about Jerry Reinsdorf this year, the White Sox owner, having his invite-only media session as well? And who knows what they were allowed to say and not say, and what was really said in that media. Weak sauce. That is just about as shrill and weak as you could possibly be. So Reinsdorf is weak. Roger Goodell is weak. I would say the Cubs are kind of weak too, because of something that they pulled recently as well. And that was that the Cubs cut the owners and business operations panels from the 2024 convention because they claim, and maybe it's true, maybe those were 12th and 13th on the rankings of what people are interested in when they go to the Cubs convention. Maybe they were in last place. Somebody's got to be in last place, though. It's the way it works. Cubs convention is a great thing. Something's going to be last along the way. It's the way it works. Hey, look, the Cubs were in a division at one point in time where they won 98 games and were in third place. Somebody's got to be down the row a little bit. By the way, I think it was just very weak of Tom Ricketts, Crane Kenny, those guys to not show up to panels like that and just take the heat. So I think that was weak sauce on their part too. So I am just astonished whenever these things pop up that they have the gall to do this. And look, I understand. Like, we live in a world where the teams are, this I have no problem with. It's something that we have to sort of fight and speak truth to. But, teams, like, let's take the Chicago Bears, just to use them as an example, since I cover the Bears. The Bears consider themselves their own media entity as well. Good for them. They have a large, talented social media team that is part of that. They have their own website, obviously, bears.com, where they have employed full-time writers that write for the team, but they're only giving the varnished version of what's going on. You are not going to find them writing, inside information online. You're not going to hear them asking those types of questions. They have their own shows. They have their own show on the radio once a week that is completely Bears sponsored, that again is Bears clean. So there's a lot of stuff that if you want truth about teams that we have to fight through. And that's why I think, like, the media at large like in some ways. And I understand we're not covering bullets out there. We're covering sports, but people do want to know the truth, and sports means a lot to people, and sports is big time money. So it's not like I know we push sports to the side often and say it's the toy department. It is. Sports is fun, but it's also a massive billion-dollar business for all of these sports, and especially the NFL. So when you have fraudulent moves like Goodell and Reinsdorf, and I think the Cubs team in some, like I said, some degree, not having their management speak at the Cubs convention and coming up with weak reasons for it, I think puts us in a dangerous place. And I find it astonishing, and I mean, just completely ridiculous that they would do that. I will fight this as hard as I possibly can, but that is an ugly trend when you have management and teams trying to dictate what the media at large, us, is allowed to say. I don't care what the teams say about their team or how varnished and how clean what their writers write about stuff and what they allow and what they don't allow, and broadcasters and writers having to tiptoe around organizations and not knowing what is kosher and what is not. That's fine. If they want to do that dance, that's great, and kind of put a little fuzziness over their listeners. That's cool. But when you start to do it to the media at large, you are violating the Constitution. You are violating what our rights are. And that's exactly what this is. So I think things like that, they're a big deal. And I find them frightening at times. And that's the thing. When I first saw that, I said, this is definitely something that I got to talk about for sure. One more thing, if I could pivot to the Bears really quickly before we get out of here. I know we haven't done this podcast in a little while. And we're going to talk plenty about the quarterback situation. But one thing the Bears really need, like as much as we talk about how good the defense got, and it did. And I think that's the word for it. The Bears defense became good. It's not great. It's not elite. Matter of fact, sometimes it still looks bad. The Bears still have an issue with getting to the quarterback. No. Like, you brought in Montez Sweat, and that has opened up so much more. I mean, for Montez Sweat himself. But guess what? You need either in free agency or in the draft. I am leaning towards free agency on this one. I'll give you some names in a second. But, when you have Montez Sweat is really the only force at adeptly getting to the quarterback on a consistent basis. I mean, you had Yannick Ngakoue. That's done, right? Unless they bring him back again for a year. Dominique Robinson, not working out. Wouldn't call it a bust because he was a 5th-round pick. Rasheem Green, really good special teams player, nice addition to the team. DeMarcus Walker, on the overall, not that impressive in terms of being a scary factor getting to the quarterback. So as much as you have to be concerned yourself with what's going on with quarterback and the offensive line and the wide receivers and all of that stuff, which we will get into, boy, you still need somebody else to get to the quarterback. 3 names at the top of my list that you can consider. Danielle Hunter for sure. That is a name that we've talked about a lot. I think that there's still a lot of good left in him. Another guy from Carolina, Brian Burns, who was rumored to have been one of the players that the Bears desired when they ended up getting DJ Moore. But Brian Burns didn't have an explosive season last year, 8 sacks, but the year before, 12.5 sacks. A young 25-year-old player, really good. I think the best is yet to come for Brian Burns. And I don't know if Carolina's going to end up keeping him or what. There's a lot to be said for the teams that might keep them. Then the third guy for sure is Josh Allen with the Jaguars, 17 sacks. It would be crazy if these teams didn't keep, especially Carolina and the Jaguars, keeping Brian Burns and Josh Allen respectively. I mean, it seemed like I would have to say shame on them if they were not to keep those guys. But that's an important position for the Bears because it's almost like we think, the defense is set. They're all good. I mean, we know that there's a few holes and things like that, but I think that's a glaring hole still in terms of getting another guy who for sure can get to the quarterback. So we'll continue to focus in on that. Much more Bears talk throughout the week, but the main thing is some of the fraudulent stuff going on in media in terms of giving you, the listener, the viewer, access through what is real media, because that is still what we do. And there's a lot of fugazis out there who are making life difficult and a little bit fuzzy for you as well. Hope you guys have a great day. Thanks to Ray Diaz for producing this show. This is the Daily Score. Talk to you soon.